everyone. Welcome to At Home with Sally. I'm Sally Clarkson, and I have the biggest privilege in the world to be with so many friends from all over the world who join me every week to listen to my stories, inspiration, biblical encouragement, and I am just so glad that you're here today. Thanks so much for joining me. Hi, everyone. I hope you're having a good day. This is Sally Clarkson, and I am continuing today on our 24 Family Ways, way number 14. And I was thinking today, because I think I'm going to do a little bit different podcast than normal, of how exhausting it is to train children, and especially to way number 14. It's way number 14 says we take initiative to do all of our own work without needing to be told. And oh my goodness, that's such a hard thing to teach our children to do things without us telling them, and to see that they become responsible without us even encouraging them. Now, if you have several kids, what you will learn, several children, is that some children are just much more naturally prone to being that way. Some children are born Pharisees. Some children are born doing everything right, organizing everything, cleaning up. There are occasionally children like that, and they're dream children. And a lot of times, because we spend so much time training our first children, they take in a lot of our guilt and our ideals, and they might take a little bit more initiative. But I do think that this whole area of teaching our children to take initiative to do their work without being told is something that really does take place over time. But what I wanted to talk about today as we're going through this is kind of the long-term road of building strong, godly character. It doesn't happen overnight, but it's repeating things over and over again. No, not this, this. No, not this, this. And teaching our children the character qualities. The character quality today is initiative, doing what needs to be done without needing to be asked. And the verse that we have today is Proverbs 6:6-8. And I love this because my kids always loved graphic story examples or picture examples. And in Proverbs 6:6-8, we read, "Go to the ant, O sluggard." My kids loved saying, "Oh, sluggard." And of course, a sluggard is just somebody who is lazy and never works. And we always dramatized it in such a way that we made sluggards look pitiful. But go to the ant, O sluggard, observe her ways and be wise, which having no chief, officer, or ruler, prepares her food in the summer and gathers her provision in the harvest. And it's always such a great thing to tell your children this story. There are several books out there that have it as a parable, and I can remember when I was a little girl, I think I heard this on and saw somebody do it on a flannelgram, and you saw a picture of this poor old ant, and it was snowing outside, and he was looking in the window of an ant house, and he was chattering and saying, "I'm going to die," and kind of left an impression on me forever. But I don't know that it made me take more initiative, but it did leave an impression on me that poor ant was cold. But anyway, I think what I'm going to do, spending some time today, is talking about what I have included in my podcast, because I think that it's so important for us to understand that this character building, training up a child, training him over and over again. And as I look at this whole area of initiative, I feel like my children are all better at some things than others, but what I have seen is that they've grown into adult children who pay their bills, who do their taxes, who keep a reasonably straight house, and they know how to clean up a house. They have people over. Maybe it's not perfect, and some people do it better. Some of my kids do it better than others, but in general, I think somehow they caught the general character quality of being responsible to take initiative. They have owned their own lives, their own decisions. They don't blame Clay and me. They all have jobs. They're not always all financially solvent because they keep going to these expensive universities. But most of them pay for all of their different things. A few have needed to borrow money along the way. But all that to say, I think that what I wish that I had known is that it takes time, it takes a lifetime to build the kinds of habits that you are including in. I used to call my kids a little club. Of course, we had girls club, and then we just, we said, we kind of looked at our little group of people, the Clarksons, and we felt like we were members one of another. And it was taking all of them over and over again through the chores, through the routines, what we did every day, what we did every week. And it was in the midst of doing that all of them learned that, oh my goodness, we are people who need to take initiative. And I have talked a lot about the concept of self-government, but it's such a great picture of what it means to take initiative. And self-governing means that you learn to rule over yourself. It's a little bit like self-discipline. You learn to train yourself, to work hard. It's important for us to give to our children a sense of self. Wow, you are so great at encouraging, or you are so great at cooking spaghetti, or you are so great at making the table pretty. We are coaching them, we're complimenting them along the way, but we need to give to our children that sense of when you grow up, how it depends on how strong you have exercised your muscles as to what kind of character you will have. And if you are a responsible person, then God will expand your borders, and you'll have more interesting things to do and ways to invest your life in a way that matters in the world. And I believe that God is going to use you to change your world. But that comes on the back of lots of hard work. And I've seen that you have the capacity to work. I can't make you grow strong inside. I can't make you own your life. But I will be here to help you if you will respond to my training. And I think that as I look at my own life as a parent and what I envisioned that I would do with my children, of course, you always envision that they're going to be more perfect than all the other children that you see around you when you're first a young mom. Oftentimes, I think young moms are the most idealistic. But what I realized is that this long run of motherhood and the training of character takes place over a lifetime, over years and years and years, and you teach them different character qualities at different times, and their hearts are more receptive at some times than another, and you use all of real life to train them. And I don't think I knew how much it was going to cost me to be a diligent parent, but I can tell you that we need diligent parents. We need parents who can kind of slip off all the unnecessary junk and all the unnecessary pressures when they're feeling like they're not going to make it. Do whatever you need to do to make it, because your labor will not be in vain. I love this verse in Luke. It says, "Which of you, when he wants to build a tower, does not first sit down and calculate the cost to see if he has enough to complete it?" Well, that's something I didn't know about. I mean, I honestly didn't know that it would cost me learning to be a servant. I had never been taught to be unselfish as a rule of life. I didn't know that I was going to have 4 kids. I didn't know that it would take a lifetime to train them. But the more I understood God, the more I saw how he trained his disciples, how he's trying to train me, then I would learn, okay, my role is to be like God is in my life, to train my children like God does me. God gave the 10 Commandments. God gave the admonitions in Proverbs. God taught his children through the prophets. God came as Christ, and he told them, he trained them how to live life well. And God is always a trainer, an instructor. And I just didn't know, I had never really understood the long-term importance of building. And I love our home that we are living in now. When I'm in Colorado, I'm not there right at this moment. I'm on a hiccup of a year helping with my kids. But a few years ago, our family tackled a remodeling project, and Joel was there with me a lot. That was a time when he was working on saving money for school. And as I look back, I hadn't even realized how much work it was going to take to redo our back porch, to redo our whole living room, to redo our kitchen. And as I look back now, cabinets were torn out, the old stained wood floors had to be sanded, and it was really a mess. The walls had to be repainted. We had to paint some of them, and we hired someone to help us paint some of the others. And to get to this work, we had to take everything out of our kitchen, the dishes, the pots, the pans, the silverware. We had to box it up so that we could do the construction. So for weeks on end, everything was a mess. There was dust, sawdust, splotches of paint, plaster, all sorts of garbage and refuse from the different projects that were going around. But little by little, we began to be amazed at the results. And of course today, even though it's years later, I still walk around my house and think, wow, this was such a good idea. And it has made a whole difference. We built an island in the middle of my kitchen. We put granite on my cabinets. I am a changed woman because I can put hot pans down on my granite. I can cut on the granite. I mean, I cook all the time for about a million people, it feels like. And so that has made my life so much simpler. And I restructured the new cabinets that we got so that I could fit things in better. And I put drawers right underneath my stove so that I could actually have my pots and pans and my pressure cooker in an order that was easier for me to be able to do it. The floors underneath where we had been walking that had turned so yellow over time were actually beautiful in their natural state. And they had just been faded and they had discolored over years of us stomping and walking over them. And there's a family who was in my house 20 years before we moved there. The cabinets gave openness to the rooms. I found interesting and beautiful touches that I was able to put into the tile to make it look more like a gourmet kitchen. And of course, all of this took so much longer than we thought. And it created more mess than we thought. And of course, it cost us more than we thought. Because isn't that how good ideals are? They always cost you more than you think. But of course, in the end, we were amazed at how beautiful and functional the kitchen became. Eventually, we replaced our carpet in the den that connected to the kitchen with another natural wood floor. And it's been so much easier than having stains and spots on our floors and the carpet. And because I serve meals to literally hundreds of people every year from this little room, all of the work and the planning and the elbow grease and the mess was so worthwhile. My kitchen is functional, beautiful, and it makes me happy every day just to be there. Honestly, it does. And I think that the reason I'm telling you this story is because I think that building our children into godly human beings is so much messier, and it costs us more than we think. And when we're in the middle of the mess, of the tearing apart, of the sinful, immature attitudes, of trying to figure out if we're building things, trying to figure out how we're building things, it takes longer. And you feel like you wonder if it really matters, or maybe if you're not capable of completing the work. But as I look over the years of the soul building that I had to do with my children, these are some of the lessons that I learned. And soul building really, and teaching our children to take initiative, a lot of times the initiative comes by us doing it as a family. And eventually, my children became so adept at knowing what was expected of them. To take initiative a lot of times requires that we are very clear about what is expected of them. I've told many people this, but I never changed around my children's chores because it was too complicated. I couldn't figure out the chore charts. They would always say, no, it's not my turn, it's his turn. And I thought, nope, we're not going to do that. Every day, Joy emptied the knives, forks, and spoons from the dishwasher. Joel also emptied the dishwasher, and he was in charge of loading the dishwasher. Nathan set the table and cleared the table every single day and swept. And Sarah helped me put the dishes on. She helped me with some cooking, and she washed the dishes. And then one of the boys dried them. So I don't remember exactly what their chores were, but they had those same chores for about probably 10 or 15 years because everybody was told life isn't fair. Sometimes you were going to have to do your siblings' chore, but in doing this hard work and teaching them what to expect and helping them to learn how to do it completely, even now when everyone's home and they want to be served and they want mama to take care of them, I can say, I might die if you all don't help me, and each of the kids can clean up the kitchen exactly as it needs to be without me having to spell it out. They have learned that this is what we do. We eat, we clean up. We eat, we clean up. And so, number one, to build something beautiful and functional, you have to have a plan, specific plans. There had to be an architectural design for our kitchen in order for us to build something that was beautiful and functional. And then we had to go to all the stores and pick out what we were going to do, and we had to go pick out samples of paint from Home Depot, and it's the same with children. We need to put together a plan, and I'm hoping that the 24 Ways is a plan that you can go back to over and over. I think that we went through the 24 Ways 3 times in the lifetime of each of our children who became adults. So in other words, even after the other kids had gone, I did it again with Joy. But I needed to know, what am I building? I am building diligence. I am building initiative. I am building unconditional love. I'm building patience, whatever all the 24 family ways are. And I could go back to the 24 family ways and I would say, do you remember what the verse is? Let's go read it again. Maybe if I write it out, you can write 2 paragraphs about it because I want you to think about it. We had our children write a lot of things, and Nathan also had to. So we knew what we were going to build for. I've had a couple of talks in my membership that a lot of people are enjoying about life gifts. And so that every day I knew what I was building in their lives. Was I building unconditional love in relationships? Was I teaching them to give grace? That's the G. G is for grace. Was I inspiring them and capturing their imagination with great stories? Was I training them in faith, the outgrowth of faith, taking initiative, as well as the faith from believing in Scripture? GIFT is training in character, and S. So you can go back and listen to those. Well, if you are a part of my membership, you can go listen to them. And I think I did a little bit on Ministry of Motherhood. But anyway, what I want you to know too is that this whole character training is heart work. We have to kind of look at the personalities. Are they exhausted? Have they had a difficult day? There are times for grace. We have to see what motivates them. Does accomplishment motivate them? Does praise motivate them? Does giving them assignments? This is what I would like you to do before 10 o'clock this morning. Now tell me exactly what I want you to do. But know that this training is heart work. It's what we want to give them a value for in what they perceive as something good. Oh my goodness, you all are the best. Look, our house is shining. Or I think people must love coming to our house because you all helped me make it so orderly. And that's a whole other thing about how we would do that from time to time. No house is perfect. There are always messes and always overstuffed drawers in houses that have lots of kids in them. But anyway, so I wanted to teach, to instruct, to invest training in my kids so that their hearts would be captivated. I would talk to them about having a life-giving home and saying, you know what, you are such a blessing because when people come into this home, I love how you reach out to them. We taught manners. We taught that manners was a way of valuing human beings. And in doing that, we also honored our children. Sometimes, on occasion, Clay and I would do these wonderful dress-up meals where we were the servants. And we said, we love you so much, we just wanted to serve you tonight. Because we wanted them to have a model of what it looked like to serve. So you're working with them on this on a continual basis, and it takes a long time. And so heart work focuses on attitudes as opposed to behavior. Spiritual training was at the front of so many conversations I had with the kids. In my conversations with them, teaching traditions, when I would watch other people, as we were in the car, or I could not have carried those. You were so much stronger than me, Joel or Nathan, when they would carry the heavy boxes, or I would say to my kids when we did our conferences, you know what, I know that you're going to be exhausted at the end of this weekend, but a lot of these moms and dads want to know that it's possible to train children who will love each other and who will serve. Can you serve by putting the books on the table? Can you serve by learning the cash register? Can you serve by passing out chocolates? And you're such an encouragement to them. Now, when you pass them out, give them one at a time, look at their face and smile at them. So we were constantly working through not just the 24 family ways, but the values that we wanted our children to have, to teach, to train, to instruct them. We talked about it, as it says in Deuteronomy, morning, noon, and night. We had in the forefront of our minds, whatsoever things are true, honest, just, right, pure, lovely. If there's any virtue or any praise, think on these things. We taught them to think about these things. We wanted our children to have mental excellence, and I'll be talking about that as I'm writing my education book. I wanted them to be able to think well and clearly. I wanted them to love learning. I wanted them to have foundations of a biblical worldview, to know Scripture, to read, to have the best artists, writers, musicians, and so on. I had goals for them because I had made my plan very clearly. Then every day I knew what direction I was going in. We wanted to give them a work ethic, and I didn't feel very capable of doing that because I wasn't taught to do a lot of chores or to clean house. Or one of my friends is impeccable in the way she keeps her house. She's a drill sergeant. Whenever she leaves a room, everything stands at attention. When I leave a room, even when I've tried hard, it looks fine. But it's not my best skill set, but I learned over many years how to do it better and better. And I didn't think I was going to be capable of teaching that to my children. And yet, all of them now, because we did it over and over, because I would say, help me with this, they learned a lot more than I did about how to help a house stay straight. We had boxes for everything. We had Ziploc bags for our puzzles so that all the pieces would go into the same Ziploc bag. Boxes for Legos that went in a certain place at the end of every day. We had, we just had places where we put things. And in doing it every day, we gave our children practice at working, at taking initiative. Sarah, would you make the table beautiful tonight? Joel or Joy or Nathan, would you clean up the yard, and would you write on the chalkboard a welcome sign for our friends? Would you choose which candles you think we should go on the tables? Or we had them involved in decoration, we had them involved in food, we had them involved in cutting up vegetables with hummus in the middle. And all of our kids basically learned from doing it over and over again. I was so tickled last weekend because Clay was, of course, in Colorado, and so were Nathan and a whole group of friends who did the movie, the premiere of his movie. Were staying at our house. And so Clay asked one of the women there who was in Nathan's movie, and he said, you know what, we always have pancakes on Sunday mornings. I got a pancake mix from Cracker Barrel, and I wondered if you would help me do it. And it was the first time this girl had ever made pancakes in her life, and this mix that he had gotten only required water. But she said, I felt so proud of myself. Those are pretty good, weren't they? And that's kind of what we did with our kids. Well, in the afternoon, Nathan called me, and he was kind of giggling, and he said, Mom, guess what? And I said, what? And he said, Dad said, now you guys be ready to do a tea time at, you guys be ready to do a tea time this afternoon. And so Nathan got the tea out. He prepared the tea. Clay had bought some cookies. They lit candles, had music, and they had the Sunday afternoon tea time without me. He said, see, even Dad does it all the time, Mom. And so when we repeat things, they become a part of the rhythms of our lives. Our children, you have to remember that it takes sweat equity. This is the number 2. Work requires the tearing down of the old and the building up of the new. To create a soul that shines forth the character of Christ, to do the real construction of building and shaping God's love, His integrity, His spirit, His righteousness, it requires a lot of sanding. The sanding to get the old off and to get the new there. There's a lot of friction. And if you have friction in your home, you're probably doing something right. Sanding is a pressured process that scrubs the grime and stains off of a wood floor to restore it to its original beauty. Well, our children are made in the likeness of God. We're made in His image. And underneath there is such potential and beauty. But sanding is a pressuring process, and going against the grain of our children's selfish will, working on the rough places of their own self-centeredness, getting to the original design is really a long-term process. So many people I know think that their children are resisting them and especially sinful. And I think, nope, they're just children. And a lot of times I didn't even know how much my kids were listening until they moved out on their own. A lot of parents think they're doing something wrong, but to confront the strong, selfish will of a child can involve resistance, pressure, patience, sanding their attitudes. And if you find resistance, you are helping them shape a new heart and a polished soul, and it will look good in the end. Training, instruction, and correction and discipline are the forms of sanding the souls of our children so that they can become pure, beautiful, and lovely. And then just understanding the pressure, the process. A master builder is someone who has a lot of experience at building, knows the process of building something new requires a lot of destruction before the patterns of beauty begin to emerge. Let's just admit it. Don't all of our kids drive us crazy at times? The fussing, the messes, the phases of whining and arguing and being lazy and needing. It seemed like there were times there was no end. And of course there are those days you just want to throw in the towel. And maybe you should and just leave for a little while. Take them to the park where they can run and you can sit quietly. The working on hearts, minds, and souls is hard work and it takes pacing. But keeping your eyes on the goal is so very important. And becoming refreshed along the way. Ask your friends what they do. The process of correcting is a long process of no, not this, and then showing them what to do. Everyone that I know who's ever built a house eventually gets overwhelmed by it in the middle of it. It's always more costly. It takes a long time. It is messy. And I feel like sometimes we feel guilty as moms when we want to escape, when we aren't enjoying the process, when we are sick of how much work it takes. It's over and over again. I'm not a naturally industrious person except when it comes to writing. I love writing. But you have to take a break sometimes in the middle of it. It's not wrong to feel overwhelmed or to not like messes or the messiness of children. It is a part of the process, kind of like hitting the wall in a marathon. So many times I just learned that I sometimes needed to take a break or put the children all in the car and put on a book on tape and then go on a long trip in the direction of a far off frozen yogurt stand or whatever. Know that your feelings don't determine how productive your work is doing, because if you are working in the direction of shaping these great souls, It's a long-term process. So take a break, go out with a friend, go out alone, read a book, listen to a podcast, do whatever you need to do. But know that if you take the time to shape your children, to teach them to take initiative, to say, I don't know what I'd do without you. And then finally, all of a sudden, you realize your older kids are making whole meals. They're cleaning the house. They're decorating for holidays. I'm at the point where when I ask for help, of course, all of my adult children amaze me. I didn't know they were paying such close attention, but it's as you do it as a part of the value of your home, and you also get a chance to do it better and better over years, and your muscles will get stronger. And it doesn't matter if you need to have somebody help you in your housework from time to time. Even in the midst of it all, your children are going to look back and say, I had a great mom because she cared about helping me to shape a character that is now serving me as an adult. So don't give up, friends, and just train that initiative. Give them a sense of how much importance there is for them to rule their own lives, to be self-disciplined. Lord, I just pray that this week you will lift the burden of all these precious ones who are working hard, who are working in areas of character in their own lives and in the lives of their children. But help them to know that it is those who take initiative, who see something that needs to be done and do it, that are the people who become those who slowly but surely change the world. They are the ones who give their lives to ministry. They aren't the 90% who do nothing. They are the 10% who love you so much that they are willing to take initiative to love a neighbor, to love a child, to love a spouse, to give generously, because they want to be your hands and your heart and your voice in the world. We love you, Lord, and I thank you that you are so kind to give us your word, your Holy Spirit, and your patience in our lives, and for making our lives meaningful. We give you this week and pray that you'd encourage anyone who's discouraged and help them to know your love, your unconditional love, wherever they are, whatever they're doing, that they are your toddler that you are going to be patient with because they have great value to you. Lord, I love you so much. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, sweet friends, have a great week, and I will see you next week. I hope you've enjoyed our time together today and that you'll join me next week. Be sure to look for more inspiration on my blog at sallyclarkson.com. Thanks for joining me. Bye-bye.